Hello and good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of a Walk in My Shoes. I'm your host, Dan Vasquez, and we are so excited to have today one of the professionals here in our city of Columbus. We have Mr. Donald Wells from Wells CPA Company. And Donald, thank you so much for coming into the program today.
You, Dan. I'm so excited to do this with you.
Well, we're super excited to hear your story, to learn about how you got started and your career path to where you are now. You are our first CPA we've had in the show before, so we're super excited to have you. So,
So
Don,
you're
tell us.
putting the pressure on. So you're putting pressure on me not to be a typical CPA. Is that it right now?
No pressure at all, no pressure at all. But Donald, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, uh, how did you get started, and tell us about your story.
Yeah. So I grew up in Southern West Virginia. Um,
Oh wow.
if you've ever seen a movie about the Hatfield and McCoys or Coal Miner's Daughter or uh, the coal industry in West Virginia, that's where I started.
Oh
Um,
my goodness,
yeah,
wow.
and the funny thing is, I got in trouble a whole lot in school. I mean, a whole lot in school. So I would end up having to write in notebooks, and sooner or later I got tired of writing. And my mom had notebooks just full of where I just wrote numbers. And I was always a kid that enjoyed sports and I played a lot of sports and those type of things. Um, I was just telling somebody earlier today, when I was in going into middle school, my family moved from Williamson, West Virginia, to Huntington, West Virginia, which is where Marshall is, and
Mm,
we were considered to be high on the hog at that point. We had made it because we got
wow.
out of the coal mines and made our way to Huntington. So that's where I grew up. I then went to school at small school, West Virginia Wesleyan College,
Okay.
just like Ohio Wesleyan up the road, but in West Virginia, and got my degree and everything from there. And then I went on and started my professional career.
Well, for those people that don't know what a CPA is,
Mhm.
could you explain it?
I can. I remember this very well. It was probably 7 or 8 years ago, and it was on July 4th, and I was out running around, and my mom and I were having one of our heated conversations. And I said to my mom, "You don't even know what I do for a living." And she said, "Of course I do. You do taxes." And I said, "Mom, last year I did 20 tax returns." So many people think that being a CPA or an accountant is all about doing taxes or tax returns.
Mhm.
That can be part of it. That can be an element of it. What I do as a CPA mostly is actually consulting and talking. I tell people that I truly get paid from the neck up. Um, in today's world, the computer and everything can do all the neck down stuff.
Mhm.
So it becomes a lot of analyzing, communicating. Uh, the written word becomes very important. So, CPA, certified public accountant. What does that mean? That means I passed the test that the accounting group says is important.
Uh-huh.
Most of us, once we pass it, say can't pass again. I could never pass that test right now if I had to. Um, so it's just a certificate, no different than if you go and become a certified mechanic.
Okay.
Well, let me a little bit different. It's just a certificate that you put on the wall next to your accounting work, and then you have the different avenues in that field that you can go into, and we can talk about that as you want to.
Okay. Okay. So you passed that famous test. Tell us a
Yes.
little bit about how was it? How long does it take to take it?
So I complain because I'm old today. And the kids today, they're taking the test. It's so much easier. Um,
Mm.
because you can take it more often. You can take it in smaller bites. So I will tell you this. I got out of college with a high B average, is what I ended up out of college with. To pass the test, you needed basically a D. You needed 65%. Okay. So the first time I took the test, I was cocky. I'm like, I'm not studying. I'm a B student. All I need is a D. I'm good. So I went in. I went in without studying the first time that I took the test, and my highest score was a 45. So it just crushed me,
Oh
just
my
crushed.
goodness.
So at that point, I started studying and taking classes and things like that. So for me to get all the way through the test when I started, because they used to say that if you passed one part, it didn't count. You had to pass two parts at a time, and it's a four-part test.
Wow.
So from the time that I got my two parts done and all that, it took me about 3 years to get all the way through the test.
Oh my
So I
goodness.
I took the test, and that's the amazing thing about it. I was a B student, but I
Hmm.
took the test about 6 times to get all the way through it.
Oh wow.
Um, it was it woke me up to that I was in a completely different world and playing a completely different ball game at that point. Now,
Wow.
today, they allow you to pass it one part at a time. You can take the test every couple of months.
Okay.
So I don't want anyone to think that the test is not doable. The test is
Mm.
extremely doable. But I will tell you this: when you start to get ready for it, listen to the people that have already took it, and when they tell you to spend some time prepping, spend that time preparing.
Wow. And how long have you been doing this now?
So, like I said, I'm old, Dan. I'm old. I've got about
Look-
30 years in.
Oh my
Um,
goodness, you don't look it. You
see,
don't look it.
see, look at you. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I've got about 30 years in. I've been,
Wow.
and I've about 15 years in. I thought I was going to leave the profession and go into sales, um,
Mm.
but I didn't. And it truly, the reason I didn't leave the profession and go into sales is because I was lazy and didn't want to learn how to do something else. So
Oh wow.
I've got 30 years in. I've
Mhm.
owned my own business now for about five.
Wow.
I've worked for uh, some of the biggest, the five biggest firms in the world, and I've
Wow.
worked like I work now in a small office with, I think there's six of us. So
Oh my
uh,
goodness.
I I I've kind of dealt with every spectrum in the realm of public accounting. I did corporate accounting for a little while at McDonald's in their corporate
Oh,
accounting
cool.
office.
Cool.
So I've got a little bit of corporate accounting in my background as well.
So in your day to day,
Mm-hmm.
Don, you are communicating with people and you communicate with numbers and you analyze. Can you tell us a little bit more about what is like a regular day for you?
Yeah. So a regular day for me is, and you said, I communicate in numbers, and I will tell you that um, I'm not very good at math in my head. I don't on a day to day basis. I don't do a lot of math. Um,
Okay.
Here's my calculator. That's the calculator that I run my business with.
That's
Um,
amazing.
so what I spend most of my time doing, Dan, is I look at numbers and then I understand them and figure out how to communicate the complexity of the numbers to people, to business owners in an easy way.
Mm,
So I will look at something, and I've been blessed with the ability to look at it and be able to just kind of understand it, and that's part of the
mm,
training, and then
mhm.
communicate it in a way that makes it easier. One of the best compliments I ever get from a client is when they come in with this issue and then they walk out and they say, "Hey Don, that was a lot easier than I thought it was." That
Wow.
means I've done my job well. So
Uh-huh.
that's most of what I do on a day-to-day basis. And then for me now as a business owner, the there's two other big parts that I do on a day-to-day basis. Uh, One is, man, I supervise my staff. I I want my staff to become better.
Mhm.
So I push and I pull, and we laugh and we cry, but we work together on
Uh-huh.
that. And then the other thing that no one really knows, that as a CPA you don't think about, man, every day I'm selling. Every day I'm selling. Because if I don't sell, that's no new work, which means there's nothing for the staff to do, which means they need to go home.
Wow. Yeah.
So, it's it's a CPA firm, right? And we
Mhm.
do CPA stuff. We do accounting. We do the data entry. Uh, we do the analysis and the consulting and the audit work and the tax returns. So we do all those functions. But when you say, okay, Don, what do you do every day? I communicate, I supervise staff, and I sell. That's
Mm,
what I do.
mm. That
That's
that's
what I
putting
do.
it in a simple way. And if I hear correctly, you don't have to be very good at math to do this.
I am not very good at math. I will tell you that my wife used to get very angry with me because I would never put cents into our checkbook. So I would round everything. I don't want to deal with that. And I tell people a lot. They say, "Well, Don, you're very detail oriented." No, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. So
Wow.
I think that as we use more and more technology for the details,
Hmm.
to be a good accountant, to be a good attorney, to be a good anybody that's serving other people, it's really going to boil down to, can you communicate with them?
Wow. Wow. So, Don, can you tell me a little bit about the transition that you had when you were working for
Mm.
big accounts, and then all of a sudden you are your own company, and
Yeah,
how did you started that? How was
yeah,
that transition?
yeah. A very hard decision, because um, at the time, when I made the decision, it was a tough financial decision, because when you're working for someone else, there's a little bit of comfort that the paycheck's going to clear, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you know when you're going to get paid, you know it's going to clear. Um, I was working for a firm, and the gentleman wanted to retire, and there were some things that I thought that I was just going to take over that firm and run it, but there were some things that we just couldn't agree on. So what I agreed is that I would buy my clients from him.
Oh,
So
wow.
the very first thing I did is we structured a transaction, and then I found an office, and I started doing things with my clients. Now, here's what I will tell you: in 5 years, our revenue has increased almost 500%.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So
Amazing.
it has been a lot of work, a lot of blessings, a lot of people coming alongside of me. But the way I started it was, and you'll hear people say this, and the kids and the youth that you serve, um, they need to know two things. First, it's okay to take a risk.
Mm,
It's okay to step out and to bet on yourself,
mm,
um,
mm.
because it's because we have to do that. We all have to do that at some time. And then it's okay to be wrong, or it's okay to fail.
Mhm.
Most people don't think about that. Many of the successful business owners and the billionaires and millionaires, they've all been bankrupt at least 3 times, right? So they fail, but it's that same risk reward concept, right?
Mhm.
If you don't take a risk, there's no big reward. Now,
Right.
let's be very clear, there can be tragic failure,
Yeah.
but without taking the risk, you don't get the big reward. So um, when I made the decision, I I was personally, it was not the right time for me to do it, but I bet on myself. I bet on
Wow.
myself, and then I was blessed that people came alongside me, and
That's
so
amazing.
it was a, and I will tell you this, um, my former employer and I, we had a conversation in October,
Uh-huh.
and in January I started my business.
My goodness. Wow. That's short time. Very
Short
short
time,
time.
short time, short
And
time.
you said it
But
wasn't the right time for you, but there was really not never going to be a right time.
there's never a perfect time. My
Yeah.
mom and dad used to tell me all the time. They say, "Hey, when you're going to have a baby? When you're going to have a baby? Well, when this time is right or that time is right." It's never a perfect time. There's never a perfect time to do certain things. So
Yeah.
I had a pretty good support team that said, "Don, now's the time." And I was like, "No, I don't believe that." And they said, "Nope, now's the time." And one of the other things that I'd like to communicate to your youth that you serve is get a good support team. And
Mm,
sometimes you just rest on what they say, and
mm.
um, because sometimes you can't see what they can see.
Wow. That's good. That's very good. Now, Don, I have a question. In your experience with the different clients, without going into a lot of detail, of course, but is there any client that you remember that were just doing really, really bad and you were able to help them?
Yes, yes, indeed. Um, it's actually a client that we're working on right now, and people don't know this, and my staff's always shocked at how far the guideposts are that the IRS and different laws will let you go. Um,
Mm,
so we're working right now with a business owner. Business is nice size, it's $500,000 to $600,000, and
wow.
they have not filed a tax return since 2015.
Oh my goodness.
So
So
we're trying to help them get current,
get through
and
that.
so I mean we'll see things like that.
Uh-huh.
We'll see people who will call us up and say, "Hey, Don, we need this to take to the bank." And when they give us their financial data, it is not even in a spreadsheet format. It's just pieces of paper. So you will see all kinds of things, which is why the skill set becomes to take this complex thing
Mhm.
and make it easier for everyone to understand. That becomes the valuable
Wow.
skill set.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing. And I mean
Man,
it's
Dan, I'll tell you, the skills, everyone used to say the skill set was in the math and in figuring out the numbers. That's what the computers are for. The only thing
mm,
computers can't do is they can't communicate.
right. You're right. Wow. That's amazing. Did you ever thought you were going to be a CPA?
So I will tell you this story. This is a fun story for you. So when I was a uh, freshman or sophomore in college, I went to the library. Yes, I went to the library, and I found a book of professions. Right, here's what these people make here, and I went through that book for about a week, and I was looking for the most money you could make with the least amount of education. And when I drew that line, it was accounting. So at
Wow.
that point, I decided, I'm going to be an accountant.
That's smart. That's really smart.
So that's how I made the decision all those years ago, was most money with the least amount of education. And then what I did is I went to my high school and said, "Hey,
Mhm.
I want to be an accountant. I need some classes." And they said, "Well, we don't have any accounting classes." I said, "Well, can I teach myself?" And they literally let me have an hour a day to start teaching myself accounting.
Wow. Wow, that's incredible. Oh wow. Not a lot of people are willing to go that route, but that's very genius. That's very good. Um, and Don, in the training that you've got, what um, the training that you received so far, what has been some of the most valuable training that you use today?
Yeah, that's a really phenomenal question, and I'll go back to the concept of selling and communicating. Um, I've had some really good supervisors. I mean, just some top notch people. And
Mm,
one of the things that they've always stressed to me was to read. So I read personality books. I read books on how to communicate. I read books on how to write better. Uh, so it becomes just a constant, lifelong journey of
mhm,
figuring out how do I relate to someone else better. So that's the training. This is something I tell my staff. And I remember when I started at Price Waterhouse in Pittsburgh, there were about 220 people in the office. Every year they'd hire about 36 people. So I
wow.
was in a hiring class of 36. Most of my clients don't have 36 employees today. So I'm in a hiring class of 36. And I remember day one, the head partner walking in and say, "Hey, I want to congratulate you all on your college degrees. Um, what that means is that you have the capability to learn. You really don't know anything, but you have the capability to learn. Now we're going to teach you what you need to know." And I
Wow.
think that that becomes really important, is that we have to always be open to the fact that we don't know we don't know everything. No matter 30 years in, and I'll talk to one of my staff people that have 3 years, and I have to be able to listen, because my training has taught me that personal communication is the most valuable tool that we have in the business world.
Yeah. Don, you've been in this for quite a bit of time. Uh,
Yep.
you've seen how things were before, but you're also in it now, and you see how much social media, how much
Mm.
technology has changed. What are some of the biggest changes that you've seen, and what do you foresee in the future in this career field?
Yeah, so that's a great question, Dan. So when I first got a job, I didn't have a computer. They didn't assign computers to people at my level.
Wow.
All right. And I remember the day I got my first computer. If you've ever seen a sewing machine,
Uh,
that's what it looked like. It was in a box like this that you had to unclip to take out. And I would have to fly with that thing when I went to clients. So the
wow.
technology has absolutely been the biggest change. Um, the um, the thing that's going to happen in the future is going to be technology oriented also in the field.
Mm,
Um, and my fear is that younger, and we talk about social media, that younger people that are coming up, that they're losing a element that's going to become very valuable in this field particularly. Um, they write in shorthand. Uh,
mm,
they they
mm.
they communicate via text and all of these things.
Yeah.
Now, what we need to figure out is whether or not big companies are going to move and make that acceptable, or whether or not the population, if you want to work with those companies, you're going to have to change. And right now, we're
Mm,
we're at a crossroads. The profession is at a crossroads. I have clients that will text me um, confidential information. And they will take a picture of it and send it to me in a text. They feel that that is extremely secure. So I think that it's how are we going to integrate the way that the younger folks are using technology into uh, a field that has a great deal of confidentiality
Mm.
and a great deal of privacy, right? Because I'm running around right now, and I could tell you salaries, I could tell you wages, I could tell you whether or not someone's going bankrupt, I could tell you all kinds of things. But yet, my kids on Snapchat always keep their location open, so they're
Mm.
free and they're sharing everything. So
Wow.
how do we balance that? So I
Yeah.
think that's going to become the biggest challenge. And how do we balance the way the different people and the different data points interact?
Wow, that's so interesting and so valuable what you just shared, that the communication is shifting, and being able to adapt is going to be key. I totally agree with you.
Yeah,
Um,
I have
we,
I real quick. I have a one of my staff, young lady, really good at what she does. Um, I sent her a email and a text and said, and she was going to be gone for 3 or 4 days. She was going to be out of the office. I sent her an email and a text and said, "Hey, I need you to call me." And 3 days went by without a phone call because in her demographics, they don't make phone calls. And I'm like, no, I absolutely have to have a phone call. So it becomes a little bit of push and pull because no,
yeah,
I truly want a phone call. And
yeah,
it's like,
yes,
yeah, I'll just shoot you a message. I'm like, no, I want to hear your voice.
yes, yes. That is so important. That is so important. Oh my goodness. And that's something that has to be taught to I think to this generation. And wow. I have another question for you. So you've seen as well, companies, as you're taking on and you're
Mhm.
helping their companies and you're analyzing them. You've seen some companies go up, and I'm sure you've seen some companies go down. Are there any traits that, as soon as you start looking at it, that you can see, okay, these guys are on, these guys are going to make it, or traits that you see, okay, these guys are not going to make it? What are some of those things you've discovered?
So this is the interesting thing about that question, Dan, because I talk to business owners all the time, and they'll tell me, "Hey, Don, here's my idea. Do you think my idea will work?" And
Mm.
here's what I'll tell you, Dan: any idea can work. Any idea, and I've seen some crazy ideas that work. Any idea can work. The traits start to become the people. Can the people do the work? Are the people open? Do the people have too much ego? Do that's when I can start to say, okay, this is not going to work because of the people.
Wow.
Any idea works. I have
Wow.
seen crazy ideas work. Like, and you and I will laugh about this, and this is on Facebook Live, so my friends will watch it and they'll laugh at this. I have for years said the two best businesses to own are laundromats and parking lots. They are they are cash cows, man. They are phenomenal. Um, but you wouldn't think about, oh, that's not a good
Right.
business. Any
Uh-huh.
idea will work if the people will have the personality and the traits to make it happen.
Wow. Wow.
And and we see that, and we truly see that in today. Before we were talking about the younger, they should communicate. We see that today because um, these guys are crazy about, I'm going to start this and I'm going to make it work. One of the young guys that I used to coach, I think he's 25 now, and he started way back when he was playing middle school ball.
Mhm.
And Nike used to have the app that you could design your own sneakers.
Mm.
So he would design his own sneakers. Then some people asked him to design sneakers. And today he has a clothing line that's in stores around town.
Wow. Wow.
Any idea will work, man.
Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
this kid, I could not make. If I came to you and say, "Hey, I want to do a clothing line," you should slap me because I'm not the person to do it. But look,
Oh my.
he's 25 years old. He's running around for clothing line, and he's got professional people wearing his stuff and all professional athletes wearing his stuff and all. Yeah, man,
My
any
goodness.
idea will work if you're willing to do the work. And
Wow.
the other thing I will tell you in that, you got to surround yourself. And before we talked about having a team, you
Yeah.
got to surround yourself with people and not people that are always going to say yes. Um, I
Mm.
have I have very few people that I consider that I consult with because once they start to say yes more often than they say no, I have to replace them.
Mm. Mm. Yeah. Wow. Don, this has been so very, very enlightening, very, very good. And it's helping our young people. Um, is there anything else you'd like to tell our young people before we close today?
Yeah, what I would want to tell them is this. You and I didn't talk a lot about the nitty gritties of being an accountant. And the reason for that is that there's a lot of different avenues that accounting can get you. One of the best pieces of advice that I received when I was going to school was, hey, if you're not going to be a scientist, if you're not going to be a specialized someplace else, and you're going to go into business, go into accounting, get your
Mm.
accounting degree. Because if you go into business and you come out with marketing, you still don't know how to run a business because you don't know how to account for it.
Mm.
So once you get that accounting degree, you have all the other business traits that you need to run a business. And
Wow.
then if you're going to come out of school and go and work for someone else, go as big as you can. I don't care how much they're going to pay you. Go as big as you can. Um, I was I was 18 months out of school, out of college, sitting in Houston, Texas, helping a large oil company write a press release for the Wall Street Journal about an oil rig in Russia. Here's a kid that grew up in the coal mines, and and here I am writing a press release, and that was all because I went big in my employer.
Wow.
I got
Yeah.
exposed to so much so quick. So if you're going to go into business, take that accounting route. I know it's boring, it'll pay off, and then go as big as you can to get as much exposure as you can as quickly as possible.
Wow. Exposure is so valuable, even though sometimes you don't make any money on it, but you're learning. And what you're learning here is more than on the hand, isn't it?
Absolutely correct, my friend.
Wow. Donald Wells, thank you so much for your time. I know we know your time is valuable, and we appreciate you taking a little break of your busy day to come and talk to us and show us a little bit about what the business world is like and the accounting world is like. Thank you so much.
Dan, anytime walking my shoes is a great project and program, and I love what you guys are doing. So anytime you need me, anytime I can be of help, I'm available to you.
Thank you so much, Donald. We
All
appreciate
right,
you,
sir.
and we'll catch up later. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
And to all of our audience, thank you so much for staying tuned. Stay tuned next week for another great episode of A Walk in My Shoes. Have a wonderful day.